With my 35 years of experience, our team at US Asset Management can deliver professional investment management, financial planning to help you target your goals, and even specialized divorce financial analysis if you need it. We are here to help you make better decisions with your money. Call US Asset Management today and let's get to work in your financial future. Do you already have your investments with Fidelity? I'm David Cross with US Asset Management. Did you know that you can assign your investment management to my team and put my 35 years of experience to work for you? You simply assign us as your investment manager and you keep the same username and password. Professional management, and you get to work with someone who shares your values. Call US Asset Management today and put us to work for you.
What happens in Georgia gets revealed one by one as the facts are unsealed. From the pit comes what they don't want you to see. When the daily nugget of truth is dropped with your host, BKP.
And we're back. Hey, folks, how are you? I'm your host, BKP, and you're watching BKP Politics on Voice of Rural America. How are you today? Well, I tell you what, you know, it's okay to be white. Really, really, it is. It's okay. It should be okay to be white and go into a restaurant owned by a black woman and a black man in a downtown Atlanta. That should be okay in America. It should be okay. Again, it's okay to be white. So I'm not for sure exactly what Keisha Lance Bottoms or who Keisha Lance Bottoms, when I say hates the most. I'm serious. Is it the fact that Rick Jackson is white? Is it the fact that Rick Jackson is a white Republican? Or just the fact he is a Republican? I mean, would it be okay if Rick Jackson went to this Toast on Lennox restaurant to have breakfast as a black Republican and meet with the owner? You know, so we hear the controversy, but I'm going to explain today what's really working, and the fear they have of why Rick Jackson going into the Republican candidate for governor here in Georgia, going into the restaurant there in Atlanta. I'm going to show you the real reason that it blew up. And Keisha Lance Bottoms and her team knows this. It's the orchestrated retaliation. You have to stay in line. You have to stay in check. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to everything go on for the last couple days. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, black voters have to stay in check. Keisha Lance Bottoms, this is so racist. I mean, it just is. Rick Jackson visits sparks uproar for Atlanta restaurant. Okay. And the brunch backlash. Now, let me say before I go any further, as you well know, I'm voting for Rick Jackson, and there's, I've had a lot of people send me messages concerning that. But what we're talking about today is one of many reasons I've told you over and over Keisha Lance Bottoms cannot be governor. Now, if you think the retaliation, because she plans retaliation. They talked about Donald J. Trump in retaliation. Really? No. If you are a white Republican, just saying, in Georgia, and Keisha Lance Bottoms becomes governor, she will not only become the governor of Georgia, she will be the most racist governor in modern time. We'll say in modern time. I don't want to go in the Wayback Machine here. Could be a couple of racist governors in the Wayback Machine. Let me just say that. But before we go any further on what she orchestrated the attack on Rick Jackson for meeting with the two owners of Toast on Lenox, this restaurant in Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms needs to be welcomed, and everyone needs to be welcomed. You need to put out the welcome sign anywhere in rural Georgia. So if you're out there and you own a business and you're a white business owner and Keisha Lance Bottoms comes up to visit your business, please welcome her, be nice to her, treat her as though you would any other customer. I mean, I'm shocked that a candidate for governor would do this. I really am. I'm shocked that a candidate for governor will do this. Now, Keisha Lance Bottoms, does welcoming a politician candidate into a business amount to endorsing his campaign? Now, when you take pictures with people that come into your restaurant, or you take pictures with people, if that person's running for office, is that, quote, an endorsement? I mean, Rick Jackson's taken pictures with a lot of people. Now, the restaurant owner, Rick Jackson, he's a billionaire. Okay. He is a candidate for governor. And he goes and he visits this restaurant. Now, let me just lay this out to you. When you're campaigning, okay? When you're campaigning, you stop at a lot of places. You go to the Varsity, you take a picture with the owner, you take a picture with all the people working at the restaurant. You go to the barbecue joint. If you're in the town, you go there. So it's not like, okay, Rick Jackson, hey, let's find this particular place. But there's some truth to the fact that all candidates look for the hot spot to go into to meet voters in an area. I mean, we had a place over here in LJ, Pools Barbecue in North Georgia. Regardless the candidate, every candidate would want to come to North Georgia that looking for votes, would want to stop by Pools Barbecue, take pictures there with the owner, former owner, Oscar Poole. Didn't mean Oscar was endorsing them. If you go into some of these restaurants, you will see, no matter where you're at in the United States, you will see pictures all along the wall that of people that have stopped by, visit their restaurant. Okay? So this is not unusual in campaigning. Okay? It's really not. You have seen it all over. They go to a business, and the owner took a picture with Rick Jackson. So we know that. Now, that's the question dividing Atlanta's Atlantans, after Republican nominee for governor Rick Jackson, visit Toast on Lenox, a popular black-owned spot known for its boozy brunches. In a now deleted Instagram post, Jackson shared a photo with Toast co-owner Tamara Young and praised her story as a successful entrepreneur. Grateful for the time, conversation, and amazing food. That was it. And we're going to show you the post. He took it down because there was so much outrage. He wasn't trying to cause the business owners, small business owners in Atlanta, any problems. So, continuing right along, because I'm going to show you exactly what happened. Exactly. The post stirred up more heat than Toast Kitchen. Some viewed it as a slight to Democratic nominee for governor Keisha Lance Bottoms and threatened to boycott the restaurant, prompting Toast to clarify that Jackson had visited as a customer, not an endorsed candidate. Like many other business owners, we often take photos with the customers, public figures, entertainers, and athletes who visit our restaurant. The photo that was shared was simply a picture taken during a visit to our establishment. The clarification did not end the uproar. Bottoms accused Jackson of using the restaurant as a political prop, writing that he was playing in our faces. Now, as mayor of Atlanta, she left Atlanta in such a disaster, and we're going to go into that. Jackson has made an attempt to do something here that I'm watching that may work. And I think what he needs to do is, after this, he needs to, when I say double down, because I will tell you this, although Keisha Lance Bottoms and her hit men or women that she's put out there to attack this restaurant, they've called for boycotts and everything of this restaurant because Rick Jackson visited the restaurant. Black owners. I think Rick Jackson, I will tell you this. I have more respect for the black community, black voters in Atlanta than Keisha Lance Bottoms, period. All right? Because I'm going to tell you, they are outraged, not with Rick Jackson. Now, they have trouble sometimes getting their voice out. But they're not upset with Rick Jackson like you would think. And the campaign's on to something. I would double down in Fulton County. I would. Now, I'm going to show you a little more here. This happens to be the owner, right? This is Rick Jackson. This is the post he took down. And all Jackson said is, I'll fight for all Georgians, including Tamara, whose story as a successful owner of Toast on Lenox is not only inspiring to me, but to anyone looking to create an opportunity in our state. Grateful for the time, conversation, and amazing food. That is all the post said. That's it. And I'm going to lay this out for you, and I think he needs to double down in Metro. Now, can he pull enough votes out of Metro Atlanta? And I like what they're doing here. They have doubled down. I'm going to show you in a minute. I like what the Jackson campaign is doing here. They need to embrace this. Call Keisha Lance Bottoms out for the racist that she is? Yes, this is racist as can be. Would when I say they, would the Al Sharptons of the world be out there yelling with a bullhorn, this is racist? Would they? If Keisha Lance Bottoms came to a well-known restaurant in North Georgia, would we protest that restaurant? No, we wouldn't do that. Now, Black Atlanta, this is just a post I found. Okay, I don't know this individual, but it's a public post. Black Atlanta, you should not be visiting Toast on Lennox until the owner issues a statement on where her support for governor's election lies. Rick Jackson does not support nor give a damn about the plight of the black people in Georgia. Check out his ad. Now, the reason I pulled this up is when I say the plight, all right, here is the thing that our friends in the black community in Atlanta, South Fulton, some of these areas know is Keisha Lance Bottoms doesn't care about the plight of black people in Georgia. I'll show you some things in a minute. I keep telling you that. All right. So it's good to see Brian Kemp out campaigning. And we'll talk about that again in a minute. Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, out campaigning for Rick Jackson and pushing back. Brian Kemp, the governor, put out small businesses. Remember back in 2020 when Mayor Bottoms wanted to keep them closed and even worse, let them get burned down. Maybe that's why so many are looking to support Rick Jackson this fall. Right? Keisha's COVID policies caused around 100 Atlanta small businesses to close. Now she wants to cancel Georgia's small businesses based on who let them through the door. I have to tell you, double down. The Rick Jackson campaign doubled down on this racist Keisha Lance Bottoms. I told you she cannot be the governor of Georgia. She would be the chief divider in the state. I mean, this is unreal, trying to divide people and what she is doing. And I'm going to play her statement in a minute. But Governor Brian Kemp, it's good to see he's out campaigning already for Rick Jackson. And he is correct. Keisha Lance Bottoms wanted to shut Atlanta down. Over 100 businesses closed with Keisha Lance Bottoms as mayor of Atlanta. Now, moving right along. These are a couple posts. This is May 29th, 2020. All right. Atlanta police are preparing for demonstrators to shift from downtown Atlanta and descend on Lenox Mall in Buckhead. Now, I will tell you, the people in Fulton County, the people in Atlanta, they have a problem with Keisha Lance Bottoms. They haven't forgotten that she let the city burn down. They haven't forgotten that. These business owners are nervous. These business owners in these areas, they live through this. Atlanta police have set up barricades around the Lenox Mall parking lot after many protesters indicated on social media they were headed there. This is May 29th, 2020, right? This is the other post here, as you can see. Now, this is from the Rick Jackson campaign. When violence surged, families were afraid, businesses worried, and police officers needed support. Keisha Lance Bottoms turned her back on all of them. Every bit of this is true. She was a total, complete disaster failure for the city of Atlanta. She only served one term. She didn't even dare try to run a second term. And she went into the Joe Biden administration. Now, that being said, I want to play this right here, because this is working, folks. And I'm going to show you why this is working.
When violence surged,
it was a wild and dangerous night.
Quickly escalated into violence and looting.
families were afraid,
This is something I have never seen in Atlanta.
businesses worried,
The business owners we've talked to say they're heartbroken.
and police officers needed support.
At least 2 officers have been injured.
Keisha Lance Bottoms turned her back on all of them. Keisha Lance Bottoms failed. She hopes Georgians forget what happened when she was in charge. I won't let them.
So there's been a lot of online chat.
We'll come back to that in a minute. That is working. That commercial that Keisha Lance Bottoms failed, that's working in Metro. Now, it's working all across the state, obviously, wherever you live, right? You don't want Keisha Lance Bottoms to bring her style of governing while in Atlanta to Albany, right? Savannah, Macon, Rome, Georgia, Canton, Georgia, Athens. I mean, the list goes on. You do not want Keisha Lance Bottoms. What if, for any reason whatsoever, you know, as we say, God forbid, what if we had to call out the Georgia National Guard? I could go on and on the reasons this woman cannot be the governor of the state of Georgia. What if we had to call out the Georgia National Guard? I mean, do you want her to be in charge of emergency management and her to be the one to make the decisions in reacting to natural disaster or anything throughout the state? So let me show you. These are all set up. So polling. New polls show promise and peril for Democrats for Democrats in key races. Now, politics will really set in. President Trump will be here tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll talk about that in just a minute. President Trump will be here tomorrow. Okay. Campaign politics really settles in after Labor Day. So it's July 21st. We got a couple weeks left here in July, a week and a half. Going to have the month of August. Then right after Labor Day, that's when we will have about a 6-week window of these campaigns will really heat up. A lot of people will start paying attention. The polling data will tighten up in some areas. But you're going to see right now the distance. You're going to start watching the distance. I think that Jon Ossoff is going to put between himself and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Because Keisha Lance Bottoms, for Republicans, the best, and I am going to tell you out there, The best thing that happened for Republicans this election cycle is Keisha Lance Bottoms being on the ballot. All right. Michael Thurman as the candidate, as the Democrat candidate for governor, would have been quite a challenge. I mean, really a challenge. Jason Estevez, I'm not for sure, but I think he would have been quite the challenge. But Keisha Lance Bottoms here, we will see after Labor Day how much distance Jon Ossoff starts to put between himself and Keisha Lance Bottoms. Now, this is a poll that she has put out on her website, right? This is from Keisha Lance Bottoms, her social media. She is claiming a new state poll shows Keisha Lance Bottoms with a 7-point lead. I doubt this. I don't really trust polling data, but I doubt this highly. I doubt this poll is accurate. Here is, now, I really wish, but they are business owners and they want to get out of the middle of it. And I really wish Toast on Lennox would not have put this out. This is the statement from Toast on Lennox. Toast on Lennox does not endorse Rick Jackson. We did not do a campaign, nor are we affiliated with Rick Jackson. Thank you for your support and understanding. I think it's just a shameful day where a business owner has to be in such fear. I mean, they have everything invested in their business. I mean, this cancel culture, as they say, to crash this business. Good evening, Toast family. We want to address a recent social media post that has generated conversation and concern. Recently, a political candidate visited Toast on Lennox as a guest. Like many other business owners, we often take photos with customers, public figures, entertainers, and athletes who visit our restaurant. The photo that was shared was simply a picture taken during a visit to our establishment. Any statement made in that post were his own and do not represent our personal beliefs or the position of Toast on Lennox. Toast on Lennox will always be a place where all people are welcomed. Now, I get that, but I wish, like anything, they would have just never put a statement out. Now, I know you're going to cringe, but we're going to play. This is on Keisha Lance Bottoms' TikTok account. All right. And I think everybody should just pay attention to how racist this woman is and how dangerous she would be as governor.
About my opponent, Rick Jackson.
When violence
So there's been a lot of online chatter about my opponent, Rick Jackson, visiting minority-owned businesses. Let me just tell you my history with minority-owned businesses. When my family moved to the west side of Atlanta in the early 1920s, my great-grandmother owned a business in the community called Lightning. My grandfather owned a business in Vine City, English Avenue. My mom owned a hair salon for over 30 years, first on Mason Turner and then across from the Mall West End. So I support small businesses. It's what I do. What I take exception with is when we let a thing become the thing. This guy is going into businesses like the Mexican restaurant he went into, but yet he's running commercials saying you'll be deported or you will be departed. This guy's going into, a black-owned restaurant owned by, a woman, and he is saying that he wants to criminalize people who promote DEI programs. This is a guy who has gone into a black barbershop but says he's going to be Donald Trump's favorite governor, Trump with a Southern tone. So I just want to caution all of us. I'm assuming anybody who opens their doors to Rick Jackson has made a calculated decision based on the benefits and the risk of doing that. But don't allow people to piss on us and then tell us that it's raining.
Did you hear that? So it is a black restaurant. It is a black barber shop, right? And he's going into black-owned businesses. Did you hear what she said? I mean, is the business open? Is the business open? Does it say open? Does it say welcome? Is she wanting to, and I'm really serious on this, is she advocating refusing service? If you have is she advocating segregation? I'm not joking. I'm not joking here. Is she advocating that we should determine if someone's a Republican, a Democrat? Why is she being so divisive? Wow, orchestrated retaliation. Now, let me show you what's really working here. And I'm going to do a full segment tomorrow. Hopefully I'll get it in tomorrow on actually Democrats making gains in rural Georgia. We're going to talk about that. So this article was the AJC. It was, I think, last week, how Keisha Lance Bottoms is making inroads into rural Georgia. Bottoms galvanized Democrats with her performance in a stacked primary for governor, but will she be able to keep up with GOP opponent Rick Jackson outside of Georgia's major metro? All right, so she won the Democrat primary without a runoff. Here's an interesting little side note. There's been a Democrat or two that don't feel she won. Election deniers. Yes, I heard a story about a Democrat saying they didn't think Keisha Lance Bottoms actually won the primary. One of them old Democrat election deniers, they're out there. But here you go. But cutting into Republican margins in rural Georgia enough to win the state will be much harder. Something Democrat Stacey Abrams wasn't able to accomplish. Abrams, a former state representative and founder of the voter rights organization Fair Fight Action, ran for governor in 2018 and 2022, but lost to Governor Brian Kemp both times. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to be in tomorrow's broadcast because I have some people that have been working on some information for me. Since 2018, Democrats have laid out the focus, their strategy, in pulling 2-3% increasing turnout in rural areas of the state. Because, you know, Brian Kemp, it was like not a full percent. I don't even think it was a full percent that he beat Stacey Abrams by 50,000 votes. But you take that 50,000 votes and you pull it into 120 counties. They know all they have to do is start moving the needle in the rural areas. So here you go. Abrams, a former representative, lost in 2018 and 2022 to Brian Kemp. 2018 is where it was very narrow. In both elections, Abrams beat Kemp in counties which populations greater than 50,000. So populations greater than 50,000 is where Abrams won every one of those counties. But those counties they have large metro areas, and they're in fear of a governor, Keisha Lance Bottoms. So we may be able to, Rick Jackson may be able to, I don't know if it's fool's gold. I really don't know if it's fool's gold. But Rick Jackson may be able to make strides in metro areas that say no to Keisha Lance Bottoms. In both elections, Abrams beat Kemp in counties with populations greater than 50,000, but in Georgia counties with smaller, more rural populations, Kemp took an overwhelming percentage of the vote, beating Abrams roughly 4-1. Even a modest improvement among voters outside of large, more urban areas in the state could have swung either election for Democrats. So even a modest improvement, and I'll just give you a little side note for tomorrow, all of your small cities, all of your small, when I say all, most of your small cities in North Georgia, I don't know South Georgia, but I know North Georgia, they have flipped their city council to Democrats. And for most part, that's why you take a Dahlonega, Georgia. I'll have people call me. You take, and I'm not picking on Dahlonega. I do like Dahlonega. You take a Blue Ridge, Georgia. You take Dahlonega, Georgia. You take a Blairsville, Georgia. Right? Absolutely. You take a Jasper and Pickens County. I can give you one right now. Hiawassee and Towns County. For the most part, these city elections are nonpartisan now. Nonpartisan. And they've moved them to nonpartisan elections. And Democrats in your communities are running most of the small cities now. They just are. You can argue with me all day long. This will get me in some hot water, but they are. And they are making moves. They know that just a small swing. John Ossoff was over in Dahlonega, Lumpkin County. I think Lumpkin County, Georgia voted 82% for Donald J. Trump. But John Ossoff held a rally and a really nice meet and greet over in Dahlonega, Georgia just the other day. Floyd County, right? Is that where Rome, Georgia, Floyd County? Sean Harris, the black Democrat nominee for the 14th district. John Ossoff just held a meet and greet over in the 14th district. The two districts, well, Dahlonaga's in the 7th. Lumpkin used to be in the 9th district, but the two areas of the state that are very strong Republican strongholds. So they know that if they can improve their voter base in areas like this, it could swing elections. But here's the catch for Keisha Lance Bottoms, and this is where I think I'm impressed with some strategy here, and I really hope Rick Jackson doubles down the campaign in the metro against Keisha Lance Bottoms and this racist attack. It really, I mean, it's terrible. We should not allow it anywhere in the state. This is not okay. In this year's primary, Bottoms outperformed her Democrat opponents in rural and suburban counties. Bottoms posted strong numbers in rural counties such as Coffee, Lee, Thomas, Tiff, and Ware. Places where Democrats have historically struggled in statewide general elections. But here's the catch. Riding the high from her primary performance in rural Georgia, Bottoms launched her post-primary campaign in Albany and has drawn large crowds in her visits in nearly a dozen counties that were won by President Trump in the last 3 elections. Now, I just want to say this. In the dozen counties that she visited that were won by Trump, I hope she was treated well. I don't recall one attack on her in the news. I don't recall anybody, business owner, denying her any service or anyone boycotting a business or maybe a winery or somewhere she's been because she held a meet and greet or an event there. Not one. Have you? No. While she received more than 70,000 of the vote, while she received more than 70% of the vote in rural counties, her victory was 8 points smaller on her home turf of Fulton County. We got right around to the point. This is why they're angry. This is why she's angry. This is why she's trying to shame Black-owned businesses. How dare you not support a Black woman? Well, hey, there's so many things today I say, could they get me in trouble? Sure, let's go for it. That's right. Right here is the reason. And see, the Jackson campaign knows, and I've spoke to some people in Metro, she is not popular. And this is why I think as these numbers come out in Atlanta, why do you think she's so aggressive? She did not get this aggressive with the Black barbershop. Maybe a catch here. Let's see if I can figure this out. Wait just a minute. Well, let me finish this part right here. Her victory was 8 points smaller on her home turf, Fulton County, than her statewide margin. Republican strategist Steve Lawson described this as alarming. Now, Steve Lawson, he has studied data on statewide campaigns for years. The concerning thing for her in the general election is that one of the counties that she did the worst in is the most populous county in the state. If she did 8 points worse in Fulton County, and if she's in trouble in Fulton County, and she has to have Fulton County to win the state, and she would do, and her orchestrated retaliation against this Black business and Black voters, if she would do what she did here recently, what would they do in Fulton County on election day? Fill in the blank. Oh, no, couldn't happen in Fulton County, right? She's in deep trouble in Fulton County. Yes, she is. I really think so. But Lawson said Republicans view Bottoms' tenure as Atlanta's mayor as her biggest roadblock in getting suburban Atlanta voters to support her. Voters that he says are starting to connect with Republican nominee Rick Jackson's message. Now, let me show you something. And I want to ask you a question. What do you think so Keisha Lance Bottoms and the team did not go after Rick Jackson when he went to the black male barbershop, right? That's right. And Keisha Lance Bottoms, no matter what she says on that video, she does not care about the Hispanic population in the state of Georgia or the Asian population, okay? Rick Jackson could go to a Mexican restaurant tomorrow, have a couple tacos, a margarita, get some chips and guacamole, and Keisha Lance Bottoms could care less. Period. She doesn't care. He could go to the local Chinese restaurant or sushi joint in town, local Chinese restaurant, order him up some Kung Pao chicken, right? Take a picture with the entire Asian staff, both of them. I'm sorry. I never see anyone working in the back. Just saying. I go to a Chinese restaurant. I don't care how much trouble this goes. I love to go to Chinese restaurant. But when I go to, there's a lady comes out. She understands I like General Tso's chicken, if that's what it is. She understands that. Couple, egg rolls. And I never see anybody come out, and I see two kids doing homework. That's it. Keisha Lance Bottom does not care about that Asian community. Absolutely not. Period. Not at all. Nothing was said until this. And what happened here? This is a black, strong business entrepreneur woman. This is a successful black woman. Great business, hard worker, great success story. Rick Jackson was actually really, honestly impressed with her story and opening the business. Black woman. I'm telling you, these are not good people. Not good people. So, let me get where I want to be here. Sorry about that. So, Keisha Lance Bottoms is really struggling with Metro. She allowed the city to burn down. We know we can't let her be in charge of the Georgia National Guard. We can't let her be in charge of any emergency response team in the state. I'm serious. If you're in South Georgia, you know that hurricane that came through? Really? You know, one thing that would really anger me, and it is so true. I hear racist all the time, and I hear white all the time. And I hear candidates say, well, they are, they are anti-Semitic and they're white nationalists and white supremacists and neo-Nazi supporters. But they will not, none of them will not, even the media will not push back on any Democrat over their communist Nazi support with the Democrat Socialists of America and others. They will not push back. And you do not want anyone, I don't care, Brian Kemp, Republican, Democrat, you do not want anyone in the governor's office that if a natural disaster occurs, we get a storm off the Atlantic, we get a storm out of the Gulf, we get fires, we get floods, tornadoes. No matter what it is, we don't want a response based on the racial makeup of the area that's affected. One more time, we never want anyone in office that would respond based on the racial demographic makeup of the area affected by a natural disaster, a storm, an outbreak, a pandemic. And Keisha Lance Bottoms has proved to be the racist that she is. She has proved not to care about small business. You cannot, I cannot go on and on. Now, what I want to show you here, oh, by the way, Jon Ossoff is Jewish. Maybe someone should tell the Democrat socialist in Georgia, the anti-Semitic Democrat Socialists of America, Jon Ossoff is Jewish, the senator. And this is Sean Harris, okay? Sean Harris, nice guy over in the 14th district, spent an amazing day in Floyd County alongside our senator. We're going to keep fighting for all Georgians. Leadership matters. I just hope that Sean Harris, while he is campaigning in the 14th district, that he's treated very well if he goes into any white-owned business, okay? Any white-owned business, I hope he's treated very well. I'm concerned. I'm really concerned. Because I want to go to, is it Nolans or New Orleans? What is it, Nolans or New Orleans? Because I was watching this thing on the Food Network, and this older black woman had passed down from 3 generations, has this restaurant down there on the corner, and I'm like, I got to get down there. I got to get down there. I mean, I got to get me some, I got to go here. It's up to, I mean, concerned anyhow, just saying. Now, Ossoff slams Trump, targets Collins at Rome campaign stand. Stop. Now, I'm going to move into a conversation about Mike Collins in just a minute as the Senate nominee for Republicans here running against Jon Ossoff. And Trump is coming to town tomorrow. We're going to talk about that, and Rick Jackson will be there. But, you know, here is, I just showing these. Here's Jon Ossoff up there in Dahlonega. He was at a winery. Okay. Great pictures from the Senator Jon Ossoff event at Dog Hobble. Is that it? Farm Winery last evening. 9th Congressional District Democrats were there. This was over at Dahlonega. Jon Ossoff was there. See the way they frame everything? Josh McLaren, you can see that at the top. Josh McLaren for Lieutenant Governor. It's almost like an ad the AJC has. And it's breaking news. New poll shows McLaren up 4 points against election denier opponent. Election denier opponent. Democrat Josh McLaren leads Republican Greg Dolezal 48-44 in the race for lieutenant governor. But you notice his opponent is election denier. Josh McLaren gets bold letters, but the Republican opponent, election denier. Now, the media is trying to run narratives. So I'm going to go right back to Keisha Lance Bottoms here. But what I'm trying to show you is the media is trying to step out and run narratives. So if you were not ready, get ready now. Okay. The media is carrying the narrative, and the narrative is for Democrats. Now, when I say I'm going to pick on the AJC, they're leading the way in carrying a narrative, but all the networks are to go along with it. Because they're excited, they're giddy. They have been covering Republicans in Georgia for 20 years. They see the opportunity not just to have Jon Ossoff for the senator, that's like their hero. I'm serious. They just swoon or whatever when they see Ossoff, all the media. This is their hero. And then they see at the Capitol, these people cover the Capitol. If you've ever gone down to the Capitol during legislative session and you see, all the Ron Burgundy types down there, all the anchor people, the news reporters, the writers, the radio stations, and they follow Republicans around. They are so excited that next year they could be covering history in the making where Democrats could be in charge. I'm just telling you. So they are creating narratives and they're running a direction that whether you like it or not, you're going to have to step up and fight it. And I say that. And this is one of the things I'm trying to show you. As we go on here, Rick Jackson leaves Trump out of his general election pitch to voters. This is the AJC, the Republican nominee's first general election rally focused on economy and Keisha Lance Bottoms, not the president. Well, I was in the room and they made a deal out of this. All the networks and Greg Bluestein at the AJC that he never mentioned Trump. And I come out of there and I recognize that. But I also recognize the 20 minutes that he was on the stage, his focus was Georgia. It was 100% his focus was Georgia. His focus was, I have to tell you, I'm going to break for a minute and give you a line. And I will tell you this, anytime you go to a political event, if you cannot remember something when you get in a car, the politician failed. I'm serious. Now, this was over a week ago, and I can look you right in the eye and tell you I can remember exactly what Rick Jackson said in this one area. Because I've watched spending on education, enormous amounts of money be spent on education. And on the campaign trail during the primary, we all heard about us, the state of Georgia, being behind Mississippi in the equivalency comprehension examinations or studies on reading comprehension. I'll get it there sooner or later, right? We're behind Mississippi. We all heard that on the campaign trail. We lag behind Mississippi when it comes to reading and where our comprehension is for our third graders. And I have to tell you, again, if you get in a car, you go to a political and you can't look at your husband, wife, friends and say, I really liked when this politician said this, then it failed. Rick Jackson stood on the stage and this got me because it's I think every child in America, here's a reach for it. I'm sorry. Here's a book right here. I can always reach and get a book. And I think, and there's 3 books right there. I think and there's 8 books over there. I think every child in America should always say, I'm in the middle of a good book. So I go out and I see young children. I talk to them and I say, what are you reading? What book are you reading? I say, you should always say you're in the middle of a good book. And Rick Jackson said, not to bore you or anything and go backwards here, but Rick Jackson said, and I really liked it. He said, grades 1 through 3, our children learn to read. 3 on, 3rd grade on. 1st grade through 3rd grade, I'll get this straight sooner or later. 1st grade through 3rd grade, our children learn to read. From that point on, they read to learn. And if you are not able to read by the 3rd grade, the basics of reading by the 3rd grade, you struggle later on as students. I've had English teachers tell me, retired English teachers, after they say, you're a grammatical nightmare, and they correct me, and I agree with that. But I've had retired English teachers that I've talked to throughout the years say, we lose boys. We lose boys in the 3rd grade. And I've heard that over and over, and it bothers me. And Rick Jackson said, that's not going to happen anymore. That's not going to happen. And I like that. So he spent 20 minutes, I don't mean to get sidetracked, but he spent 20 minutes talking about Georgia and the things as governor that were his focus in Georgia, and he wouldn't let Keisha Lance Bottoms become governor to destroy the state. He did not need to say Trump, talk about Trump. He didn't need to that day. He was setting the tone for this campaign to be the governor of Georgia. Now they're trying to tie Trump all the way around him, and he's going to be there tomorrow. He will be there tomorrow, and they'll try to run a narrative about that, and so will Mike Collins, because President Trump will be in Cobb County tomorrow. Now, moving right along here, here's a post from Keisha Lance Bottoms, right? This is right from Keisha Lance Bottoms. When you see Rick Jackson and Donald Trump together at their joint rally next week, remember these birds of a feather flock together. So I think right now what I want to do is I want to play you some of the attacks that have gone on social media against Republicans. I want to play a couple of those, and when I get done with that, we'll come back. Remember, we talked about the plight, right? The plight of black people in Atlanta. So let me get this together here. Give me just a second. I do not know.
Come on down to the front. Let's talk about toast on Linux. Atlantans, Georgians, those who frequent Atlanta regularly from other areas in the country. Come on down to the front. Let's talk about toast on Linux. For those of you who do not know, Toast on Linux is a very popular spot here in Atlanta. The wait time on the weekends can easily go for 2-3 hours. I've never been to Toast on Linux. Wanted to try it next week, as a matter of fact, because I had vacation and I was going to try to get in during the week. That won't be happening. When folks go to Toast, they love to take pictures with this wall behind them. It's a beautiful spot, but this is the picture that a lot of the folks want when they go to Toast. That wall or this wall. All of the photos that you see out there, you will see people taking photos in front of these two walls. Why have I changed my mind in patronizing Toast on Linux? Well, Toast on Linux basically told me without saying a word directly to me that they don't value my black ass dollar. This is a screenshot that I got from other people who got it from the Jasmine brand, who did a story on this here situation. I'm not a Jasmine brand fan, so I don't follow them. I actually have them blocked because at one point they started to do the dirt shit that the Shade Room was doing, which was uplifting Republicans and their bullshit. So I blocked them just like I blocked the Shade Room. Anywho, this is a photo of the owner of Toast, a black woman, and she is cheesing and smiling in front of the legendary Toast wall with governor candidate Rick Jackson. He is Keisha Lance Bottoms' opponent. And what does he say? As governor, I'll fight for all Georgians, including Tamara, whose story as a successful owner of At Toast on Linux is not only inspiring to me, but to anyone looking to create an opportunity in our state. Grateful for the time, conversation, and amazing food. Well, I don't have to tell you that us Georgians are tuned in politically. And when we saw that photo, we was like, what? What kind of conversation could Miss Tamara want to have with a white supremacist? A white supremacist who has repeatedly said that if he is elected Georgia's governor, then he would become Donald Trump's favorite governor. He would run this state as Donald Trump runs the United States of America.
As governor, I'll be like Trump, but with a southern tongue.
It gets worse for the owners of Toast on Linux. They have gone through, people on the internet have gone through Chef Harper's. I believe he is one of the owners of Toast on Linux. They've gone through to see who he follows, and they saw that Chef Harper follows Donald Trump and Charlie Kirk. And now the internet is saying that he is MAGA. That would explain this. I saw this and I was like, is that the white supremacist sign that they are throwing up? That's Chef Harper and that's Tamara. Yeah, if they are MAGA, that would explain why they are throwing up this white supremacist sign. Because I know we have all seen how the racist MAGA nuts throw up that white supremacist sign. We seen them do it over and over and over again. And here these two are posing, throwing up that sign. I wonder if they know. This certainly is not a good look. Baby, I don't ever want to be on the bad side of the internet, because they will get to digging and they will find
white supremacists. Charlie Kirk. You know what? Did I tell you earlier? It is it's okay to be white. It really is. It's okay to be white. It's okay to be black. It's okay, Hispanic, Indian, Asian. Don't want to miss anyone. It's okay. But white supremacists. Rick Jackson is a white supremacist. That's how all they know how to yell. And she said, see, she's never been there. Now, she said this, I did not. Her black ass dollar. Her and that's what she said. As Michael Scott would say on The Office, that's what she said. Her black ass dollar. Well, the plight, and I want to show you something, and I'll make it very rapid. I'll make it rapid here as talking about the plight. Okay. You know, when I was first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party, I said we need to go talk to communities. We need to, as Republicans, we need to go talk to communities and have a conversation. And it doesn't need to be black tie. If you have a black tie event, that's great. We need to go where small, black-owned business owners are struggling in communities and talk to them. So remember this right here. This is Harrison Floyd, right? Harrison Floyd indicted by Fonnie Willis. Remember when he was indicted by Fonnie Willis? I went down immediately and had a meeting with Harrison Floyd. I went down, had a meeting, sit down with Harrison Floyd in Atlanta. I think he was in Fulton County Jail. Was it 7 days? Fonnie Willis put him in jail. Black man. I went down, sit down, and had a meeting with him. And I wanted to go to Atlanta, and I did not want to go to I did not want setup. I wanted to cold call, walk in a black business, catch people off guard, I'll just say it like that, and say, let's have a conversation. You want to talk about the plight? Now, first of all, I walked in this guy's store. I'll never forget it. As you can see, he's got a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. He's got Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X. I forget the one guy's name, Bob Marley. And we stood in his shop in South Fulton. I think we talked for 45 minutes. He was telling me so many things. They have no one in these areas, the Keisha Lance Bottoms of the world, that don't. Now, we took a picture together, okay? We took a picture together. I took with this gentleman that day. I said, tell me about your business. He said, who are you? So, first vice chair of the Georgia Republican Party. He looked at me and said, now, wait a minute. We never had anyone down here. So, well, I want to come sit down. I want to hear from you. I want to talk to you, right? Now, these business owners and these people in these areas, they do not see it the way, if Rick Jackson will reach out. I don't know how well we can do, but I think it's time in Atlanta. They've had enough. Their street lights don't work. There's crime. So I'm going to tell you something in a minute. I'm going to show you something in a minute. And here's another one where we were standing in his store talking. I really enjoyed this guy. And, hey, they let me have it. They did. This guy right here, This guy right here, he said he was really standoffish with me. I mean, I walked in, he was standoffish, and he was a little suspicious. A white guy, he was a little suspicious of me, right? And I said, look, I just want to have a conversation. I said, you know good and well, there's no one coming in this area. I don't care who they are, Republican, Democrat, black, white. They're not coming in your area, in your small business. I've been watching people come in and out of your little business for the last hour, waiting on to get a chance. I stood there for 40 minutes waiting to sit down with this business owner. And I said, when is the last time someone said, hey, let's just sit down and talk? So he said, okay. And we went outside and we sat down, and he said to me, this is what resonated with me the other day with Rick Jackson. This guy on the screen said to me, he said, you know, and he pointed, he said, our kids, they can't read. He said, our kids can't read. Our schools in this area, kids can't read, the crime, the drugs. I mean, I sit down with this guy, I bet I was 45 minutes. It was a great meeting. And I'm telling you now, they want to talk. I went in a market. This guy's a butcher. This lady is the owner. I went in her market. We stood there. I bet we talked for 30 minutes. One of these days, I'll tell you all the conversation we had in there. And this lady was in one of the markets, right? Now, I'm going to tell you right now. Hey, Rick Jackson, I'll go with you. Yeah. I'll go with you. We'll go down. We'll go down to meet the actual people that have been waiting to hear from someone. And, you know, here's the thing, okay? None of this was staged. And I'm not accusing the Jackson campaign of staging their event. But none of this was staged. I just went down to these businesses, this is South Fulton, right? And walked in the door. And is the owner here? Can we talk? So the one thing, in my opinion, the Rick Jackson campaign, you got to distance yourself a little bit from Shelley Winters. Okay. Shelley Winters is taking you into areas or setting you up meetings with people. You need to be going into the actual depths of these communities to see what's going on. I mean, you really do. You have John King as the insurance commissioner, tough guy. John King he's a tough guy. You have security. I mean, I'm just saying it like that. You need to go into some of these areas and look around and talk to these people because Keisha Lance Bottoms does not care about them. He doesn't care about them. But you know what? We do. We we do. I mean, I would go tomorrow to all of these areas. I keep telling people they are conservative. They're family oriented. They don't want drugs in their communities. They want their kids to be able to read. They want their kids to be safe going to school. They don't want drug trafficking, sex trafficking. They don't want that in their areas. They want street lights that work. They want grocery stores in their communities that are not robbed or burnt out to a point that they leave. They want a drugstore in their community. They do. I'm telling you, they do. They want a drugstore. They want a grocery store. You know, I'm telling you right now, they would love for the right people to come in their community and say, Keisha Lance Bottoms will not be the governor, and we will not allow her to destroy your community, much like she destroyed Atlanta as mayor. I think there's a possibility. I think there's inroads. The lady that owns the toast on Lenox, black woman, black businesswoman. Now, I want to show you something here. This is Fannin County, Georgia. And this is a billboard that they have run, Fannin County Democrat Party. You see, they crossed out the A-R-I-C-A and me first instead of America first, me first, Donald Trump. I'm telling you right now, all of these small counties have been working on their Democrat vote for years, since 2018. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Now, let's switch gears on Mike Collins. So that's the upside. The upside is, I think, the Jackson campaign, the gift that Republicans have continually is Keisha Lance Bottoms, the racist. Yes, absolute racist. And you can't just keep saying white supremacist on everything and white nationalist. You can't do that. It's not going to resonate. What if we publicly put black in front of something? What if we did that? What if anyone, when I say we, what if anyone did that? It says a white nationalist, white supremacist. What if we said black? But what would the media be outraged over that? Would that be racist? A racial attack? Mike Collins won the GOP base. Can he convince the rest of the party? Now, let me say this. There's an old country music song. When I was a kid, my dad used to play it. And it was called Give Me 40 Acres and I'll Turn This Rig Around. And you know, I said early on, Mike Collins would have problems turning his rig around in Sandy Springs and Brookhaven. I use those two, or Buckhead, Brookhaven, and Sandy Springs. I said early on. Now, John Ossoff is campaigning and going after him. And whether you like this or not, all right, he does have his foot right now on Collins' throat. He does. And he's getting all the help he needs from the media. Because Ossoff is a darling. He just is. He's nationally, he's a darling. They're sending him money from California all over the United States. He's got plenty of money. They talk about him as being the possibly next Democrat nominee for president. I mean, they just get all excited when this guy walks in the room. Now, Collins running against Derek Dooley and Brian Kemp. I see Brian Kemp already putting his best foot forward for Rick Jackson, but I don't see or anticipate Brian Kemp doing that for Mike Collins. Now, I've said this over and over. Can Ossoff win in such numbers? Could he bring in the W in such numbers that he pulls off coattails? Keisha Lance Bottoms, Josh McLaren, Penny Brown Reynolds running for Secretary of State. Does he or will he have coattails? Now, I don't know. I'm studying this on a daily basis. I don't know exactly how Mike Collins turns this around. I really don't. I don't know how Mike Collins turns this around. But I do know this. There's plenty of time. So early on, Ossoff is out there. He's campaigning and he's saying, you know what? John's saying, there's a reason Brian Kemp campaigned so hard against this guy. Now, John Ossoff is using Brian Kemp everywhere he goes. There's a reason Governor Kemp, right, worked so hard to stop this guy. So Mike Collins won the GOP base. Can he convince the rest of the party? And we have, and not to bore you, the Republican Party in Georgia. How many times do I tell you we have to have all three lanes, this far right, the middle, and the squishy Brookhaven Republicans, call them that. But to win a statewide election in Georgia, you have to have every single Republican vote, right? Then you have to have a nice chunk of independents, and you got to pick off one or two Democrats. Republicans are already behind the scenes fretting over this guy right here. They're behind the scenes. I don't care what you say, they are. And here's the thing with Mike Collins. Mike Collins under scrutiny for son-in-law's anti-Semitic comments. So early on, I went to the Mike Collins kickoff campaign when he kicked off last year. I think it was early July, same time this year, early July or something like that. I went down there. I was in the room. And on that day, I told people called me, how was the kickoff? I said, it was good. He had a good room. I do remember a downpour rain that we had. And I was impressed with the turnout with the downpour. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was such a downpour of rain. And when I got inside, I was like, I'm still impressed that people, filled the room up. And on that day, they were on the stage, all of his surrogates that were talking for Mike Collins, they were all on the stage talking about Mike was President Trump's right-hand Georgia congressman in D.C., and Mike supports President Trump, never turned his back on President Trump. We're working on President Trump. We think President Trump's going to come along real soon. Even Bruce Lavelle. Now, Bruce Lavelle, many of you in Georgia know him. Black Republican. In fact, I would like for Bruce Lavelle to go down there and take a picture with that lady, see if the same thing happens. Anyhow, wonder if Bruce Lavelle's been to Toast on Lennox and they know he's a Republican and they know he has pictures with Donald Trump. Interesting. Back to that. I really like Mr. Lavelle. But Bruce Lavelle was on the stage and he was like, we're working on President Trump now for this endorsement. Over a year ago, I know for a fact that they worked on the endorsement for a year. Donald Trump did not give Mike Collins his endorsement until I think it was the Friday before the Tuesday of the election, right? I think Friday before the Tuesday of the May 19th or the runoff in June 16th. I think the runoff was June 16th. Donald Trump did not give him over a year later his endorsement until then. Now, here's the other thing. People asked me after this, what do you think? I said, I don't know how well Mike plays in Buckhead. I don't know how well he plays in Brookhaven and Sandy Springs. I don't know how well he will do there. I've said this. I have the tape. I have the tape all the way back in the primary when he's running against Derek Dooley. I have the tape when this guy was in the primary against Buddy Carter and Derek Dooley was polling 8% or 6%. And I said to people, I said, first of all, he's running for Senate. He knows the media can't wait for some things. So he's got a congressional ethics complaint against himself and Brandon Phillips. He's got to clean that up. People will call, I say, he's got to clean that up. It's a nothing burger. It doesn't matter. It's not true. It's this. I said, I don't care. The media narrative is going to eat the guy alive. He's got to get away from it. Well, what other problems do you think he has? I said he has a problem with Brandon Phillips. Well, you think it's really, who really knows? Now, I have a question for you. Do you know how many people said to me back then, who really knows Brandon Phillips, if you ask? Okay. Okay, just wait. Let's see what the media does with Brandon Phillips, because Brandon is an idiot, right? An idiot. As Michael Scott on The Office said to Dwight, what was the best advice I ever gave you, Dwight? Don't be an idiot. So you know somewhere along the way, Brandon Phillips is going to do something, and he did. And I have to tell you, all the networks, the local news cycles, the newspapers, the AJC, they have made sure you know that Mike Collins, first chief of staff, campaign consultant, right-hand friend. Now, I have to tell you, going back years, when Mike Collins ran for Congress in the 10th District, anywhere you would see Mike Collins was Brandon Phillips. That's just a fact. So they all knew this. So did Mike Collins. Mike Collins went with it, knowing sooner or later, even with the ethics violation, Mike should have come out and handled it, but he didn't. He didn't handle it. He should have come out and said, "I've let Brandon Phillips go. I've launched my own internal investigation into my something. I don't care, something." But guess what? The committee that votes on whether to investigate and turn it into an ethics complaint voted unanimously, including all of his Republican colleagues, to go forward with the investigation. So Brandon Phillips, number one, right? So what does he do? He turns around and he hires his next chief of staff, Kip Talley. Now, this guy's a sitting congressman. He's running for U.S. Senate. He knows they're after him. He knows that they are going to just swoon over Jon Ossoff, and anything Jon Ossoff says will make headlines and will be the greatest thing ever said from a senator. He hires Kip Talley, second chief of staff. I mean, not prepared to talk about his social media. Now, I will tell you this. I'm not going after these people. I don't know if the things, and don't go after me because I've not researched, I don't know if the things they put up are the worst things that have ever been said, because I know this. They won't talk about a Democrat Socialist of America. They won't talk about those Nazis. They won't talk about those communists. They won't talk about the fact that they want to overthrow our government. I mean, the list goes on. They won't talk about the fact that, they hate. I'll stay away from them. Nothing. And they do not ask any of their candidates to denounce anything these leftist people say on any social media or any post. They don't denounce it at all. So I don't know if what they've said is horrific, but I know the media turned it into that. So Mike Collins, second chief of staff, he ends up firing him. Now, I don't know. I didn't do the thorough look into what this Kip Talley did and posted, but I will say this. Collins maybe should have just stuck with him and went with it. But he's gone. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Now, I'm troubled by this because this is family. And watching one of Mike Collins' son-in-law's videos, and have to say it's pretty anti-Semitic. This is Mike Collins' son-in-law. Now, apparently, my understanding is he lives with Mike's daughter, his wife, on the family property. I think, I'm not going to quote here, but you can put it in the article. We can put this in the article, but I think it said he works for the company. Mike scrubbed it from the social media, took the family picture down. And who is following this? Who is getting all the pumping this up? Senator Ossoff responds, after scrubbing his website, this is John Ossoff, Mike Collins still refuses to answer whether he has been paying this neo-Nazi propagandist personally or through his business, campaign, or office, just as he refuses to apologize for his office's ties to prominent white supremacists. Now, obviously, white supremacist is going to be, as you heard Rick Jackson, this lady earlier, right? White supremacist is the catchword. That's it. Everybody's a white supremacist. Let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you this, and I don't care who gets angry. It's okay to be white. You are not a white supremacist. You're not. Okay? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not a white nationalist. I'm not. You're not. Bottom line. But they're going to, every single thing that comes out of their mouth, the media is going to carry it for them, right? Prominent white supremacists. Prominent. He's not just white supremacist. Yeah, that boy, prominent. Senate GOP, Mike Collins' campaign has removed from his website a picture of his family that includes his son-in-law, who has a history of posting anti-Semitic statements and white nationalist slogans and propaganda. Now, so let me just say this. You're getting ready to run for U.S. Senate against John Ossoff. And you get ready to launch your campaign. So you bring the family in. You set them down. You have the family meet. All right, family. I'm going to step out and run for Senate. We know how dirty politics is. Which one of you dumbasses have been posting things, right? Which one of you? Now, this guy over here, I want you to give them access to all your social media, your phones, everything you got. They're going to scrub it. They're going to go through there. They're going to start helping you delete everything. No one's in trouble tonight. No one's in trouble, family. Everybody keep you cool. No one's in trouble. But this is as much for you as it is for me, and we've made a family decision. I'm running for Senate. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of everybody that's in the family pictures that could have done something. We're going to move them out of the way, acquaintances, whatever. And we're going to go through a full week of cleaning house. Got it? I don't want to hear it. You want to stay in this family? Right? We're going to delete what needs to be deleted, whatever. It's politics, folks. This is politics. You may not agree with anything I say, but it's politics. You know what you're doing. You're stepping out. Right? Mike Collins removed his son's picture. Now, another shakeup for the Mike Collins as the top aide departs amid scrutiny. This report comes days after GOP Senate nominee Collins replaced his chief of staff, Kip Talley, who told friends in a group chat he will try to use his levers of the legislative branch to try to help secure the release of Holocaust denier from prison. So, Ossoff targets Mike Collins over Epstein files in new ad. You know how the team, and I'm going to say this, okay? I don't want to say we're at halftime. We're not up till, we've got till October before early starting. And like I said, September is when it really turns around. And we're going to get into the things that concern me here. All right? Everything that you're hearing today from me, I have laid out for the last 6 months. I've laid this out for a year. Since I went to the kickoff, I think I'll start going back and finding this for you if necessary. And do I want Jon Ossoff to win? No, I do not want Jon Ossoff to win. Have I told you in the past that Brandon Phillips, I still feel somewhere in my gut that Mike Collins has not totally separated himself from the guy? Now, that's what I feel. Okay? I feel he's somewhere out there. And Brandon Phillips looked me in the eye and told me he did not want me, or Mike Collins did not want me to vote for him. This campaign from day one, I've said everything I could. I got attacked, and I mean attacked, from our party that I had given in to Brian Kemp. Right? You lost your damn mind. I'm sorry. Have you lost your... No, that never happened. But I said to you that Derek Dooley would make a better opponent. And Brian Kemp would campaign for him every day and would bring money in Georgia. And although Derek Dooley may not be able to beat Jon Ossoff, but maybe it would be 1% or 1.5%. And that way we could save the governor's office. Because I'm going to tell you something. I'm not one of those that say, oh, we got to pack up and leave. But I am one of those that'll say, I bet you're not prepared to live under a Keisha Lance Bottoms administration as governor. I just don't think you're ready for that. Seriously. That's why you don't live in New York. That's why you don't live in New Jersey. That's why you do not live in Illinois. That's why you do not live in California. That's why northern Idaho is full of people from California. That's why Florida is full of New Yorkers and Michiganders and Illinois Illinois people, no S on the Illinois people, right? And that's who we would soon become. So that being said, the Epstein files. So it's almost like right now, and let me get past this and I'll move it on over. John Ossoff swamps Mike Collins in fundraising reports, $42 million on hand. $42 million on hand. Now, keep an eye on this because here you go. His latest haul is among the biggest Senate fundraising quarters in the country, trailing Texas Democrat James Tallarico more than $30 million haul as of early Wednesday. Keep this in a little side note, right? If you're out there and you're supporting Mike Collins and you want the Republican to beat John Ossoff, much like we all do, we don't want to send John Ossoff back to be our senator. It would be nice if Georgia had a Republican senator again, unlike what took place in 2020. We'll save that one for another report. But when it comes to Tim Scott, we'll get into that, and John Thune, and the money around the country, and trying to beat John Ossoff, Texas is supposed to be fool's gold for Democrats. But the biggest haul in fundraising recently went to James Tallarico, the Democrat candidate for Senate, up against Ken Paxton in Texas. Don't forget that. Democrats feel they may be able to turn Texas. So you really think the money's going to come into Georgia? We'll see. Ossoff's campaign released the fundraising figures ahead of its full Federal Election Commission filing. The report, expected late Wednesday, that'll be tomorrow, will provide a more detailed look at the finances and where they're all coming from. The GOP nominee trails in early polls. Mike Collins faces a massive fundraising disadvantage and carries the sort of political baggage that his rivals long warned could doom him in November against rising Democrat star. Listen to the way they write it. I've told you this over and over. Ossoff's the rising star. I mean, they have actually already, in many ways, called the race for the guy. And I'm not joking. Please don't get angry at me. I mean, the media, it's just like, Georgia, that's Ossoff's massive fundraising disadvantage and carries a sort of political baggage that his rivals long warned and doomed in November. So that leaves Collins fighting on two fronts. He must broaden his appeal beyond the Trump loyalist who powered his June runoff victory, while also convincing donors, activists, and national strategists that Georgia remains worth their resources. I have the tape. I know you don't like it when I say that. I've told you this over and over. I told you this was coming over and over. That the money that here's what Ossoff has successfully done. Look, we're going to shock them. We're going to Brandon Phillips, another chief of staff, Epstein, white supremacist. I mean, we're going to put our foot on his book. You ever go to a football game and the kickoff and the other team is just like shell-shocked, like what happened? All of a sudden they're down 21 and there's like still 8 minutes to play in the first quarter. I'm serious. That's the comparable, right? So if Ossoff knows this, they know this, their campaign knows this, if they could put a crushing opening blow on Mike Collins, they could deter people from sending money, fundraisers from sending money in here. It is far different. It is a far different task from the one Collins faced in the primary when he built his campaign around loyalty to President Donald Trump to defeat former football coach Derek Dooley, who along with Governor Brian Kemp urged Derek Dooley, who along with Governor Brian Kemp argued Collins could never win the middle of the electorate. For now, Washington Republicans are signaling they are not going anywhere. The Senate Leadership Fund, the GOP's most powerful Senate super PAC, announced a $44 million investment in April. Now, keep that in mind. There's a reason they're putting this out here. That was in April. They announced a $44 million investment in April. It's July. Ossoff knows they have this investment sitting there. And what the NRSC, National Republican Senate Committee, right? What they will do is they'll reallocate money. I mean, you got $30 million Tellerico against Ken Paxton, flipping a Senate seat and saving the Senate. If you're watching the national media every day, they're all talking about possibly taking the Senate, and that's why they're so upset with Graham Plattner up in Maine. They thought they would knock off Susan Collins. That was their knockoff with Susan Collins. They're not sitting up there in D.C. saying, I think we really stand a chance with Jon Ossoff. Not that we don't. We could win this one. But the National Republican Senate Committee and their money and their $44 million they committed in April has to look at saves. Ken Paxton, others. And other Republican heavyweights say they've committed to the race. Those are not recent commitments. Jon Ossoff is the most valuable Democrat senator on the map. Nikki Pugla, is that Pugla? Of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. Jon Ossoff is the most vulnerable, sorry, not valuable. Apologize, strike valuable. That did not come from Republicans. Jon Ossoff is the most vulnerable Democrat on the map. Collins is delivering for hardworking Georgians. Now, the NRSC cannot sound as though they're concerned. They cannot. You will not hear them start talking about concern. There will be leaks over time. If you will see over time, there'll be leaks come out of Washington, D.C. on where they're moving money. You'll hear all of a sudden, well, the NRSC canceled an ad buy here and moved $4 million here. That's over time. And that'll probably happen right around Labor Day. They will give August readjustments, and around Labor Day, they can't wait any longer. They'll have 6 weeks. And you'll start seeing the restructuring then, and right in the first week of September. Trump is likely to reinforce that message this week when he travels to Georgia to appear alongside Collins at Wheeler High School in Cobb County, their first public event together since the runoff. But the public show of confidence hasn't quieted longstanding doubters about Collins' chances of ousting Ossoff. Now, those concerns are mounting. This is a quote. This is even worse than I could have imagined. One more time. This is even worse than I could have imagined, said Jay Wells, a veteran Republican activist from Southwest Georgia. He predicted a defeat even more lopsided than Republican Herschel Walker in 2022 loss to U.S. Senate Raphael Warnock. This is even worse than I could have imagined. Mike Collins should have never made it out of the primary, he added. So, the Trump factor, the Republican nominee of Georgia's marquee races have adopted different strategies for dealing with Trump, but both will be standing beside him this week. So, Rick Jackson, on this note, with Trump coming to town, Rick Jackson tomorrow could pull over any Burt Jones holdovers, right? If there's any voters out there for Burt Jones that have not made a decision to vote for Rick Jackson, this could be instrumental to pull those voters over. Mike Collins, this could definitely help Mike Collins to stop if the base is starting to get like, I need volunteers. Well, maybe I should go over and help this candidate. Mike Collins has to make sure none of that starts happening, or the base, he has to put that back in check. This could be very instrumental. Now, if Trump comes to town tomorrow, and I'm going to say this for all those Trumpomaniacs out there, you know who you are, and Trump supporters, and if Trump comes to Georgia and stays focused tomorrow, this could be a major positive. I know they're going to yell, there's going to be a No Kings rally tomorrow there. They're going to try to really get a big crowd together. They're going to talk about his approval rating. They're going to talk about his approval rating. But if Trump will come in and stay focused, stay positive, this could really do something good for these candidates. Just saying. But as we all know, what do we all know? Donald J. Trump is a coin toss. We all know that he's a coin toss. So I'm not piling on Mike Collins for those of you that are upset. I'm not piling on. I'm just telling you, watch the narrative of the media, what they are doing. But what Mike Collins has to do immediately, stop helping them. Stop helping them, period. Because, as I always say, there's two things. Don't get into politics if you can't stand the sight of your own blood. And second, one day I really, really enjoy is when Republicans think, right? When Republicans think the media likes you. The media likes you, right? So this is not going to change. Mike Collins does not need to continue to help the media in any way whatsoever. I'm not for sure what the turnaround would be. Keisha Lance Bottoms is a racist? Yes. Keisha Lance Bottoms cannot be the next governor of Georgia? No. Keisha Lance Bottoms could not head up the emergency management response teams in Georgia for any national disaster. We've seen what happened in Atlanta. No. Keisha Lance Bottoms could not in any way whatsoever head up the Georgia National Guard or the Georgia State Police. No. She cannot. Absolutely. Bottom line. All right, a little shout out. Mark your calendar. Houston, Peach, and Bibb County GOP are proud to present Fish Fry 2026, where Georgia Republicans come together Saturday, August 22nd, 2026, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The doors open at 9:30 a.m. This is in Warner Robins. They'll probably keep adding people. They have featured speakers already. Brandon Beach, the U.S. Treasurer, is going to be there. They'll keep adding speakers as the weeks go on, and we'll update our banner here. These are just great people, and because it's in Warner Robins, this is the perfect time for some Republicans to get together and get ready for September, heading into November. There you go. So tomorrow, I want to talk a little bit more about rural voting. We want to talk about some of the things that are happening concerning election integrity as people talk about it. They call me an election denier. I'm not an election denier. I don't deny that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So why would you say that? I'm your host, BKP. Yes, that would be me, BKP. And don't forget, you can go to Vora on Substack. You can send me a text message. You can email me. My favorite emails on my Substack articles and the emails you send me is when you take issue, when you have an opinion, and when you say, I like this part, I don't like this part, I agree here, I don't agree here. My favorite, absolutely. Just the uglies. You know who you are. Okay. So let's see. What do we have here? I have one I wanted to put up here. Let's take this down. Let's take this down. Let's slide this over. And